Question is, am I working? Is my brain working? Because this is very unusual. Feels like something else. Feels like we're doing something else.
Yeah. I'm excited.
Are you?
I am.
That's not the word it's in my head right now.
I'm excited, I don't know. I think it's time to
wake up, you drunk fuck.
Yeah. That's what it's time for. I feel like we've been opening the show with this pre-babble, and I'm almost always like, oh, I'm so tired. Like, how could I get through another week? But we've got energy.
Okay, fine. Except today,
right?
It's 5 o'clock at night instead of 9 o'clock in the morning. I'm a morning person. I don't know about you.
Yeah, lately, yeah. Well, yes, I am a morning person. Typically by 7 o'clock, I want to be home. And anytime something comes up that I've got to be there, like the deacon's meeting at 7 the other night, I don't want to do it. I want to go home. I want to be left alone or see my kids, and that's it.
Yeah.
And to bed.
So what are we doing here?
We are being grumpy old men. I'm excited to be here at 5 o'clock. I've always wondered, how would the show be at night?
I guess we're going to find out. What'll be great is having Friday morning.
Yes.
Free. Well, not free because I've already have 2 conference calls scheduled for work. It's like they smelled that I'm going to be around,
I've got to make sure Jeff's number is right up here.
All right. So, and we're back. Welcome to Recovery in the Middle Ages, the podcast about 2 middle-aged suburban dads and their pursuit of life, love, and recovery. I'm Mike R.
And I'm Nat X. And
boy, do we have a show for you.
Today on RMA, Jeff and Bianca D join us to tell their harrowing story of kratom addiction and redemption. And we get fully into October with kids, sports, clubs, church, Cub Scouts, homework, and decorating for the fall season. All this and more today on a very special edition.
Twilight edition.
Of RMA. And hello, you took my intro over.
Ha!
What the hell?
It's because we're doing everything different.
Yes.
It's like using your left hand. It feels like somebody else.
Up is down, down is up, all of that fun stuff. Welcome back. First, we'd like to welcome all the new people listening here in the USA and around the world. We love hearing from you, so please, if you like what you hear, write us a review on your favorite listening platform and share it with a friend. Where can they find us, Mike?
Apparently, they can find us in New Zealand because we got an email from somebody in New Zealand who was out walking his dogs while he listens to us and thinks we're just the greatest thing since sliced fucking bread, which is fantastic. I'm
definitely guilty of marketing to New Zealand a little bit. I thought, what are some English, when I'm doing my targeting, what's some English-speaking countries that might appreciate what we're doing? And New Zealand's on my list.
New Zealand's great, man. I know it as a land of hobbits and elves and things from Lord of the Rings, but I assume other things happen there.
Yeah.
There's sheep.
There are sheep.
No, I mean, it's funny because I read that email from a listener, and then I just Googled like New Zealand, and a picture of Auckland showed up, which I guess is the city in New Zealand.
I thought it was Christchurch. I guess Auckland and Christchurch are the big ones.
Anyway, it was huge.
Yeah.
It's a big city.
It is. And I've met people from there. I have a good friend who is from New Zealand. They have a charming accent. I always appreciate a good New Zealish accent.
I don't think so.
New Zealish.
All the tech guys are apparently building, what do you call those things? Bunkers there for when the world collapses. They're all going to flee to New Zealand and set up camp out in the hinterlands out there with their private armies. So.
I have heard that before, that all of the future-telling people who say where the safe zones are, they've come up with Christchurch, New Zealand is the safest place when the solar flares hit and wipe out all of the dollar crashes. For some reason, you want to be in New Zealand. I haven't figured out why, but
I don't know. People seem friendly, though. So why don't you all visit us at middleagesrecovery.com to listen to the podcast, to submit your story, to buy our shit, and to get in touch with us if you so desire. Great reviews will be read on the air. Please log on to your favorite podcast app. Apple Podcasts is best because the more 5-star reviews we get on Apple Podcasts, the higher we climb in the ratings and the The closer we get to the front page, and once we're on the front page, man, we can do anything.
We're climbing up. We're, according to my reporting, number 73 in mental health in the United States even. Yeah. So
that's terrifying.
Number 73.
It's terrifying that people listen to us for any mental health improvement whatsoever.
It's all, entertainment, guys.
So yeah. So a 5-star five-star reviews are appreciated. Help massage my delicate ego.
Yep.
You can take that out now.
Are you sure?
Once it was funny. Now it's just redundant.
I think you still have a delicate ego.
I do. The discussion continues 24/7, 365 on our private Facebook group, found conveniently through our public-facing Facebook page. We screen new members. Have had to do that a little bit lately. Somebody's been sending you some really weird messages the last couple days.
I was going to bring that up.
Yeah, you can do all the stuff there. Buy the T-shirts. Please buy the T-shirts.
Yeah, they're really cool. We have
handsome new designs.
handful.
Oh, awesome new designs. Sorry, I thought you wrote handsome new designs.
You can always write your own copy if you want.
I could. I'd rather criticize yours.
Yeah, it's more fun.
It's much easier for me. And always, guys, tell us your story.
Yeah.
There's like 8 million stories in the Naked City, So
the Naked City, yeah. We actually have a news story that is from Anonymous. It was a weird email, so I'm not going to read it. So it's Tell Us Your Story, Anonymous. Hey, just come across you guys, or just came across, I'm sure they've wanted to know if my story was of interest to you as a podcast interviewee. In short, last year, that no one wants to talk about, I walked across America whilst British. So I'm going to leave that one. I was also female, fat, funny, 40-something, and in my 4th year of recovery in AA. Despite myself, I made it. Along the way, I had to rely on all 12 steps to A, stop me from falling victim to the wildlife, B, not fall out with fellow hikers, and C, not fall off mountains. I learned a hell of a lot about fear and fortitude. Obviously, I'd like to plug my book, Everything You Ever Taught Me, which documents the journey. You'd think also that living in the wilderness was a pretty safe place to avoid relapse. I learned that it was not, although I remained sober myself. Thank you so much for
Interesting. I bet there's more to the story.
I don't think there is.
I think it's in her book.
Oh, yeah.
It's probably a really long story.
I wish she left a name. But the name of the book is Everything You Ever Taught About Me, and I think that's
or Everything You Ever Taught Me. Could be
another a British person listening to the show. So thank you so much for
walking across America whilst British sounds dangerous, especially in the South.
I mean, I know just driving across this country, being I tan easily and have a beard was a problem. Do
you get stopped at airports?
I've been stopped. I was in California, and I had long hair and more of a beard, and I get pretty dark in the summer. Mm-hmm. And we were driving along, me and my friend Chris, in the band that opens the show, and he's very pale, and I was sitting next to him. And a guy gets in the middle of the road with a white glove, holds up his hand in the middle of the highway near San Diego. And we're like, what the hell? Slow down, pull over. It's an INS agent. And one agent walks over to my side of the car. Another agent walks over to Chris's side of the car. I roll down the window. Mm-hmm. And then the guy looks at me. He's like, hey, man, how you doing? He's like smiling at me like I'm going to be like, "Ke?" And I was like, oh, hey, my name is Nat, from Long Island. I'm American. And he's like, oh, I'm so sorry. And it was just like this misunderstanding.
I
was profiled.
Oh, the racist misunderstanding?
Yeah. Just a misunderstanding.
There is questionable legality of Border Patrol stopping you inside the United States and asking you questions. But
I remember thinking, what if he didn't see that guy standing in the street?
I don't think you have to answer them, actually. But then you can you should always ask them, am I being detained, and listen to the answer, because if the answer is not yes, then you can just drive away.
Yeah, and then the next thing you know, you're in Guantanamo Bay,
You're an American citizen, right?
Top of, theoretically. Not with this beard.
All right. Anyway, enough of the legal advice.
Do we have a review? This is not legal advice and should not be construed as such. Yes, we have a review from Scrappy Scrapperson, which is a great name. Good name. Well worth a listen. I agree.
That's the title of the review.
Thank you.
Add this to your lineup of recovery podcasts. It's well worth it, especially if you, too, are in midlife. Nat and Mike are relatable, knowledgeable, engaging, and funny.
Agreed.
I especially like the format. While they occasionally interview guests, they also cover a wide range of topics, from book reviews to aspects of 12-step programs to what did and what did not work for them. They have a great rapport and offer a lot as it pertains to finding your own path. A unique podcast to complement your current favorites. Oh, thank your wife for writing that for us.
Yes, thank you, honey.
No, thanks, Scrappy Scrapperson. Much appreciated. Glad to know that some of the things that we say are... I don't know, enjoyed by other people, taken seriously, and chewed over.
It is very cool, and it's and we have a great time. It's a little weird right now doing this at night. How do you feel so far? Are you feeling it, or is it a little bit?
I don't know. I'm watching you drink that horrible coffee from next door, and
it's just not the same, is it?
Yeah.
Well, it's spooky season, and I was working on the outline last night because I was panicking because we had to do it early, and it wasn't done. And I'm sitting there, with my laptop, and I'm working feverishly, and I just started writing, the beginning of the life update, and it turned into a little poetic paragraph.
Sounds like the beginning of your novel.
So what I wrote was, I love this time of year. There is a chill in the air, the smell of wet fallen leaves and rain puddles. It is the foreboding chill of winter slowly creeping over us like a shadow, competing with the sunlight for our attention. Autumn always reminds me of the many years I spent at school, be it elementary, high school, or even my 2 decades of collegiate pursuits.
Nice.
There is a promise buried in the smell of pumpkin cookies and apple cider, like a lifetime of reminiscence made real with the first chilly wind that nips at my neck.
Were you smoking weed last night?
I wasn't.
Are you sure?
I thought it was funny. Okay, the promise is for a life renewed, another chance to make things right with a new school year, another holiday season, another opportunity to be that father, son, and husband I always wish I could be. This fall, this time, I will be present, I will be joyful, and I will be sober. I will be there for my family, my friends, the Monksters, and there for any kind stranger in need of a word or smile of support. Are you ready? I am.
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't know what to say.
I don't either. I wrote it and I go, that's not bad, but it's also really cheesy.
It's part reminiscence. It's part manifesto.
Yeah,
it's part call to arms. So, I don't know how to.
So in a desperate attempt to get content for the beginning of the show, I wrote that. So yes, it's fall. It's Halloween season. It's spooky season.
I love the fall.
And you always decorate for these things.
Yes. I'm gonna throw some pictures up on the Facebook group. I think what I have is a small graveyard on my front lawn.
That's it.
Each
is there anybody really buried there? Though that would be
I mean, not like human people.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah.
But I have each gravestone has its own light and theme, and there's also like a blow up where I project Halloween images on it. And,
interesting.
And I got a fog machine, and I got...
I vaguely remember the fog machine, because we did stop by, I think, last year.
Yeah, some of the animatronics are still in the garage freaking out the dogs. I put the Scarecrow animatronic in one of the Adirondack chairs we have, and the dogs barked at it for a half hour straight.
Those poor dogs.
Because every time they got close to it, it would scream in their faces. So it was great.
That's abuse.
Yeah. But, fall is really weird because I always sort of, some people think like spring is a time for renewal or New Year's is a time for renewal. For me, it was always the fall. Like the fall was the time that I embarked on new stuff.
So you related to that?
I did relate to it. I did.
The promise. There's a promise buried in the smell of pumpkin cookies.
Yes, there is. So for me, the promise was always less pumpkin cookies.
Less pumpkin.
I would always try and go on. I would actually always try and quit drinking in October. I would always try to quit smoking. The fall was always the time.
Yeah,
for
I wonder why that is. Because even though it's not the new year per se, just growing up, it was the beginning of a new school year. So
maybe that was it.
I always was like, it's fall, new stuff is happening, and it's associating all of the smells and the weather.
I was always thwarted by pumpkin beer, though. Pumpkin flavored beer.
You didn't like it?
I loved it.
Oh, you loved it?
It would always thwart my desire for self-improvement because they put that little cinnamon sugar around the rim.
Yeah, my wife just had one of those. I forget where we were. And all the sugar and this big pumpkin beer. And
I've been trying to find an NA pumpkin beer to sort of scratch that itch, but I have not found one yet. If anybody out there knows of one, send me a link to my email.
Yeah, I just remembered where I saw those. So on Sunday we went to our cousins for just like not a barbecue. When we ordered in, we hung out outside, and my cousin did their backyard. You ever see these backyards where they put a TV outside? There's it's like a living room.
I've heard of such things.
It's like a living room outside. Which to me, I don't know. I can't figure out the logistics. Like when it rains, is the TV waterproof?
So it's like a permanent thing.
It's
not like
installed.
they set up something. Wow.
Yeah, like
is there an awning?
Yeah, there's an awning.
Okay. Does the TV like slide down into like a brick or something?
Didn't appear to do that.
Interesting.
I was marveling at it, and we were just hanging out. And of course, though, it was like at these things, of course, everybody's having a drink, and it's like totally normal. The only one that's not totally normal is me, because I'm the only one. So these kinds of drinks.
Now. I think you got to flip that script, brother.
Oh, you think? Yeah.
Maybe you're the only normal one.
Yeah, right. So everybody's drinking and having a good time. It was really nice to see those guys. We didn't see them that much this summer, and they've got kids our kids' age. So it's like, even though they're really our like third cousins once removed or something, they're still our kids are their cousins, and it was great to see them. And what I do at these parties, because some people listening to this are thinking like, how could you be at a barbecue or a get together and actually have fun? How can I relax and just chill out with my seltzer or my ginger ale? And I just had to say that it takes just practice.
Yeah.
I think that's what I'm coming to realize after all this time, is that a lot of what I'm doing, it's just because I've done it so many times. It's like working out.
Right.
You get the sober muscle.
Right. You're not at that place where you're going to go sit there and think, Jesus, this would be so much better if I could go into the cooler and grab a couple of beers.
I mean, for the longest time early on in my recovery, I still had in the back of my mind a little jealousy. And I recognized it, and I just kind of dismissed it, though. But it was there.
Yeah.
I would still have that, man, if I could just drink a beer watching the Jets lose this week. And that little voice in my head seems to have completely evaporated.
It's great.
I'm still going to keep my guard up, but it's just something I've noticed in the past year or so.
So going to like barbecues and stuff, fine, right? But like, what about going to a bar?
Well, I've been to a bar a few times since I got sober.
Me too.
And I don't know. What do you do at a bar? Especially one that doesn't have any beer or water. Like most
of them do.
Yeah,
I mean, the
brewery in town.
I won't go in there. That place is a warehouse that smells of rotting beer. Yeah. It's not my, What do I do when I go into a bar with coworkers and whatnot? I just sit there and what I did the first few times I did it was I pretended to drink. I would get the ginger ale in the glass and with the swizzle stick and the lemon peel.
Yeah.
And people would think I was drinking scotch and nobody said a thing. Yeah. I haven't been to a bar in a while. I guess COVID just kind of put the kibosh on that. But I'm anticipating more of that. And, my plan is to go and spend limited amount of time in a bar because after the 2 or 3 drinks, the people you're with cease being interesting at all. They just become drunk, repetitive, and irritating. And for me, that's like a time to say goodbye.
Yeah, I noticed that even at this gathering, and it didn't get ugly or anything, but as the night starts out when you're not drinking and they are, and it's fine for a little while. Mm-hmm. What happens is they begin to deteriorate with their conversation, gets a little angrier.
Right.
People get a little more emotional. Mm-hmm. And if you're not on that level with them, if you're not drinking along, it gets very uncomfortable.
Extremely. I do not like people who are like emotional tinderboxes who, if you drink, you don't know what direction they're going to go in. Are they going to get mad at you? Are they going to get like to me, I would rather avoid the whole situation.
Yeah. I mean, I couldn't avoid this one. And
I get it.
And I loved seeing them and we had a great time. But like one of the side effects, you could say, of being sober is when their little cousin, who's Noah's age, I'll call him Larry. It's not his name, but to protect the innocent. And they were kind of like, hey, would it be all right if if Larry slept over tonight.
Wow.
And that
That's
was
a big
Saturday.
ask.
It was, but I was like, you know what? Yeah. And all adults looked at me like I was nuts, and I was like, you know what? Like, Noah hasn't hung out with his cousin in a long time. I'm perfectly capable of taking care of this. I didn't expect my wife to do anything special for it. I said, don't worry. I'll take care of it. They're going to have a great time. And I just felt like it was like a superpower that I was able to do this. Because, I'm telling you, everybody looked at me like you're nuts. And especially when they said, all right, well, you've got to drive him home, though. And I said, fine. And they're in Massapequa Park, which is, not fun.
Yeah.
I said, one condition, he's got to come to church with us because I got to go to church tomorrow. No, he's got to go to church. And they were like, yeah, sure, just take him, please.
Right.
And so I sort of, watched them, for the sleepover. And they went to bed. It was fine. I mean, he had a good time, like my wife went to sleep and Maxie went to sleep. And they were in bed they went to sleep by like 1 o'clock, 1:30. And it was great. They came to church with me and, their Sunday school class, it was my dad as the teacher.
Oh.
And so he, of course, knows my father.
Right.
And so it was just a lot of fun. And then we went and we had a great day. And decided to, as a family, we went out to one of these Halloween stores. Speaking of
Spirit of Halloween, one of those places.
Speaking of Halloween, yeah. And that was a lot of fun. And, I would never have volunteered for such a thing. I wouldn't. I mean, I was still
you would have
tired.
had a crushing hangover.
Forget it. But I was ready, man. I woke up that next day, even though I was up till 1:30 with them, basically. Ugh. I fell asleep at like 10:30, and I came and checked on them, that type of thing. But I was fine, and I was happy to do it. He had a great time. And I'm just, just to be able to do stuff like that without killing myself.
That's you're living that best sober life because, if you had been drinking, number one, you wouldn't want to drive, You would have had to drive. Somebody would have had to drive, right?
Right.
And that to me, like I regret so many of those incidences where I got in the car and drove when I probably should not have been driving.
Yeah.
But thank God, nothing ever happened. But you mentioned church, so this is also, in addition to pumpkin cookie season, it's also the beginning of religious education in the Catholic world.
Yeah, you told me that. You said it's religious season or something, and I was like, what are you talking about? But in the Catholic Church, there's
CCD, right? So, I've had this long sort of negotiation going on with the priest in our local parish about getting I got the kids baptized at the beginning of 2021.
Yeah,
with vague promises of increased church attendance and participation in Catholic education. So the education thing is easy because I just have to, get them to it and then they do it, right? And I'm not involved. Church, we did okay for a little while, and then I started, the summertime, it's hard to go.
So I didn't even go in the summer, really.
Well, I mean, it's just...
It's the summer. Nobody shows up at church. There's no Sunday school.
So, but then so church, religious education started up this past week, and I'm not, we're not a big religious family, right? I mean,
you were dodging Father Tom or whomever.
I've been dodging Father Tom for years.
You go running, you see him, and you immediately launch into a bush.
Right. Well, the weird thing the other week, I was out running in the dark on Sunday morning. It was probably like 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. I get up very early.
Jeez.
And I see this guy like walking in the opposite direction on this, the dark path that goes between our the two towns. You know what I'm talking about, right? Mm-hmm. And this guy pops out, and it's Father Tom. I'm 90% sure it's him, and he just gives me a cheery hello and keeps walking. And I'm like, number one, he either doesn't know who I am, or two, that's not Father Tom, and he's just some whack job walking around in the dark.
4:30.
So anyway, I take Ben back to his first class, which is a mass in the church. Okay,
that's what the class is.
It kicks off with this is our kickoff mass. We're going to start off by worshiping Jesus together, right?
All right.
So, I picked Ben up after the mass, and the parents didn't stay. It was a drop off.
Right.
And Ben's like, "I got to tell you something." He goes, "That Jesus bread, I give it a 9.5 out of 10." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?
Good Jesus bread?"
He's like, the wafer they give you. And I'm like, you were not supposed to do that. You actually haven't gone through the hocus pocus to allow you to go up there and do that. And he's like,
yeah, that's evil. It's evil.
I mean, it's just
eating the host.
Right. He's like, he He's like, I took a 0.5 off for texture. Tastes very much like cardboard. And I'm like, yeah, we've been saying that for, generations of Catholics have had that similar complaint. But then he was like, but the taste was good and it was salted perfectly. I'm like, I don't know if that's what you're supposed to get out of that, but okay.
He didn't feel absolution or something.
Nor did, but on the flip side, nor did the gates of hell open up and swallow him whole. So,
That's funny you should mention this because our nephew goes to Catholic churches, and once a month in our church we do communion. It's not like it's not
every week.
No, just once a month. And when we do it, we use bread and grape juice.
Like you rip the bread into pieces?
Rip the bread into pieces.
The Eastern Orthodox rite, they do it that way.
Yeah, we always and so I said to him, because when we do have communion, the kids have a choice. They can go up if they feel like the way we do it in our church is anybody can take communion, but to be respectful, we ask that only if you're like a believer.
Yeah.
To take it, but you don't have to go through anything special to take communion. We believe everybody should have access to that if they want it. But with the kids, we like to say, I don't want them to take it until they understand what it is and then make a choice. So some kids take it, some kids don't.
That's the antithesis of what goes on in the Catholic Church.
Yeah, I mean, that's how we pretty much do it. So when we feel like the child knows what it is and can respect it, then okay, you can do that. And so he was like, oh, you have communion? And I said, yeah, man, but like you don't have to take communion. Like I don't want you to feel uncomfortable because some people, it's a different church, like whatever. But he did it, anyway, and he was saying that same thing. He said, wow, that was a really good communion bread, Ours tastes like cardboard. I'm like...
I remember, when I was probably 12 or 13, when they introduced the wine into the Catholic Church, it used to be you'd only go up and get the bread,
right.
But then they started giving out wine, and as an adolescent, I was all over that shit.
Communion
wine. When I think about it now, it was so disgusting because you'd have like hundreds of people taking a sip out of the same cup of wine. It's like
we have little cups. So we put the grape juice, and because Presbyterians are teetotalers, they don't really drink. So it's grape juice, so the kids can have these little cups, and it's.
I like that.
Juice. Yeah.
That's better than trying to catch a buzz off a cup that 95 people have already put their lips on.
Speaking of, and we're doing a lot on church right now.
Yes,
but this is actually pertinent to recovery. More than once, when I've been in outpatient situations or groups, there's usually some guy who's quote unquote very religious in his church where they have wine for communion, and every time they would drink the wine or they would blame communion on that they pissed dirty.
Right.
And
that's just awesome.
And but the counselors were always like, dude, one sip of communion wine would not give you this level of alcohol intoxication. Like, so that's actually been in a debate, even in the AA groups that I've been in. I've heard it come up, like, do you take the communion wine or not?
No. But
because if you believe it, there's something called transubstantiation,
right?
Where in the Catholic Church, what that means is that they actually are turning that bread and wine into the blood of Christ, the actual blood. So therefore, it is no longer wine.
Well, maybe it was the blood of Christ after he did a 3-day bender.
But Monksters out there, if you've come across this, if you're Catholic and you have wine at communion, if you're sober or trying to be, do you still take that communion wine? That is my question.
I mean, I took plenty of communion wine, but usually it was because I was sneaking into the sacristy and stealing it.
But now that you're sober, would you sip a communion?
No, but you know why? I wouldn't, because I find the idea of sipping from that cup revolting.
It is revolting.
Yeah. So it's not because of the... Plus, for sobriety reasons, there's no requirement that you drink the wine. You can just do the bread. It's all good.
And you still get saved?
You still get credit.
Yeah?
Yeah.
That's good to know.
Right.
I don't know how we got off on that one.
I don't either, but I'm sorry, guys out there.
Should I reread?
Because we have a lot of atheists who listen to us, and we were like,
if you hate all
they
the
probably
church
turned
stuff,
it off like 5 minutes ago.
The only reason we talk about this stuff is what's happening in our lives. Should I read the spooky season poem again, or should we move on?
I think we can move on.
Okay. Moving right along. Oh, my iPhone crashed. This is perfect segue. For one thing, I'm reading a book that was recommended to me by you,
Right.
called Dopamine Nation
Yes.
by Dr. Anna Lemke.
Yes, great book. We're going to review it in a future show.
We're going to do a couple episodes, I think.
Yeah,
on
we
this.
are.
It's so good, and it touches on so many different. It touches on a lot of different aspects of recovery. Even if you're not, in recovery from drugs and alcohol, there's a lot in there. It's all about the dopamine hit that we get in different ways, and how it affects basically our physical and mental health. But like it really all came together for me with this book, and my iPhone completely crashed to the point where it was totally frozen. I couldn't even restart. Like, I know how to restart phones and reboot. It was not rebooting. It was completely frozen, and I was panicking like crazy. And when I finally realized what it was doing to me, I began to snap at my children. I began to panic.
You were on a low dopamine cycle.
Man.
You couldn't get your little drug hit from your phone.
And I couldn't listen to my audiobooks.
Oh.
And,
Tragic.
interestingly, though, and it made me really look at myself. And finally, I said, you know what? It'll fix itself. And I didn't use it all night long. The next morning, it was fine. There must have been an update. Or
the magical thinking actually worked. It'll be fine in the morning.
I just said, you know what? I'll deal with it because there was nothing I could do about it at that moment. I tried everything. I removed the special SIM card just to see if it would reboot it. Nothing. And also, because in the book, she talks about being addicted to audiobooks.
Yes.
And I'm addicted
Certain type.
to audiobooks.
Yeah.
And all of the things she was describing about how she couldn't go like a minute, or maybe this is one of her patients, she was relaying the story, where they're always listening to a podcast or a book.
Right.
And because of it, they're not being present with their child. They're not, and I do that same shit.
Right.
And I am all the time. That's how I listen to in like so many books, because I'm always listening. I can't even go to the bathroom without popping in my earbud and listening to something.
What I noticed just from listening to some of these true crime podcasts, because she mentioned in the book, it's you get to a certain point in the action, and then it's like there's a big letdown after that, and you almost like you don't even want to finish the rest of it.
Yeah,
and I noticed
I've done that before.
when I listen to some of these true crime podcasts, when you get to the murder or the conviction or whatever, and then I'm kind of like, whatever, I'm done.
Yeah,
it's like a weird long mini orgasm or something in your brain. It's so strange.
I'm experiencing that right now with Infinite Jest, which is this really long book that is really interesting, and I love it. It's 1,000 pages type of thing, or 56 hours. And I'm doing both. I'm reading it when I can, and I'm also listening to it while I listen to other podcasts and another book. So this is how much I'm saturating my mind.
You're just bathing in dopamine.
It's just like, and so this book, Dopamine Nation, is all about how we're overstimulated, about how there's a lot of interesting stuff in there. So we're going to do a show on it.
We are.
But yeah.
Related to that, what do you think about when Facebook went down and Instagram went down for like a whole day this week? I was completely off my game. I couldn't, I would reach for it. I'd open it. I'd look, I'd stare at it. And then I started thinking, man, I'm spending investing way too much time in this.
Yeah.
And I started thinking, maybe this was my addiction whack-a-mole going on here. I've sublimated and I've gone to dopamine hits from social media instead of sitting in the bar.
But it's really interesting, kind of stepping back and looking at addiction from the angle of dopamine.
Right.
I mean, and then you can apply it to anything like running. She was saying like long distance athletes, they report that same kind of.
Yep, I definitely have that.
Where you don't get that high anymore. It's just like with the drugs.
Like you got to keep going.
Yeah, when a lot of addicts will report, there was a point in time where it just stopped working. No matter how much I did or didn't do, I was always feeling like shit, and I never got that feeling.
There's so many ultra runners and so on, that are ex-addicts and alcoholics, and I think that a lot of that's because they're wringing the last drops of dopamine out of your brain, and if you can't get it by running 3 miles, you're going to go 5 miles, and if you can't get it by 5, you're going to do 10, and marathons and 50s and 100s, and all of a sudden you're spending like 90% of your time running.
Yeah,
which
it's true.
I don't know, it's...
So maybe we can look at addiction from this holistic approach where we're looking at your body chemicals, reaction to substances and the dopamine. So really interesting book.
I was worried the book would be a little reductive and just be sort of like, biological, but she kind of folds in a whole bunch of other stuff.
She really does.
But I don't want, that's another episode. We'll get on.
We're going to get on it. We have
we have to do something else, don't we? Oh yeah. Monkster Speaks. Shit.
Let's do that before we call Jeff.
Right. Okay. So
new segment, Monksters Speak. Speak.
Yeah, I got to get a thing for that. You could do. Why don't you sing a little ditty? Let's do a little thing.
Monksters Speak.
Oh, maybe we could do the Munsters theme.
Yes.
Right?
Will we get sued?
I don't know.
Eddie Munster.
I use
not around
the
anymore.
Agent 99, the Get Smart for Aaron Moore, and I have not gotten a cease and desist letter yet on that. So I'll just keep pushing it until they shut us down.
Yeah, it's a good idea. So Monksters Speak.
Okay.
Speak.
So I put this post up in the private Facebook group because I read a post on another Facebook group. I was going to have them remain nameless, but I'm going to name them. They were the Wharf Rats, which are the Grateful Dead group of sober deadheads. They gather around the yellow balloons at the back of Grateful Dead shows. They're sort of they claim they're not a 12-step group, but they really are mostly all in AA.
Liars.
So whatever. I mean, it's great. They provide a safe space for people at shows, and it's wonderful. But I find the Facebook groups can get a little pedantic and a little scoldy and so on. But so I was reading. So okay, I'll read the post that I put up in our private Facebook group, and that'll give you a sense of what happened. So, So I occasionally stalk other recovery Facebook pages to see what sort of experience, strength, and hope are being put forth by others operating in this sphere. And I came across something today that I'd like your thoughts on. Yesterday, a woman in this particular group posted a picture of herself holding a syringe because she's a nurse and commented that she had 8 months today off heroin. And isn't it ironic that she's using a syringe in a more appropriate manner these days? The admin on the site pulled the picture down, and a stream of comments took her to task for publishing a, quote, triggering photo. She got upset, and the usual gaslighting and passive-aggressive Facebook brouhaha ensued. Now, maybe it's just because I'm a Gen X asshole, but I was appalled at the way the poster was castigated over what was an awesome accomplishment because some of these, quote, recovered folks apparently can't see a needle without running down the street and scoring a bag. Jeez, am I being a little harsh? Maybe I am. What kind of recovery is that? Do they not leave the house ever? There are alcohol ads every 20 feet everywhere. And then I threw it open to our Facebook group and said, what do you guys think about this?
Right. So on the private Facebook group for Recovery in the Middle Ages, we've got our Monksters hanging out. This is where we do all of our recovery stuff as a group.
Yes.
And so this was posted there.
And I got a few responses, thoughtful responses that were kind of, ran the gamut. Most people would have to say agreed with me, which is kind of why you post something in the first place, right?
Mm-hmm.
Are you really looking for debate when you post something, or are you looking for affirmation?
Depends. I think for the most part. Sometimes I post things deliberately to get people to talk about it.
Yeah.
That's just as a facilitator. I'm just trying to get our Monksters talking. But a lot of people just want validation.
Right. I just have a giant ego, and I want people to like me.
Get that dopamine hit for every like.
So someone wrote, this was Jennifer, wrote, I am not triggered by ads or pictures of beer or other alcohol. I would characterize it as more irritated that is literally everywhere and romanticized the way it is. Having never been an IV drug user but have a loved one who was, the sight of needles, references to heroin, police sirens, unknown callers, all these things trigger anxiety in me. Do I expect the world to tiptoe around my issues? No. I also don't agree with attacking people online from the safety and comfort of your keyboard and your phone. Unless you live in a bubble, you're going to come across things that trigger you. The key is to figure out how best to deal with that without attacking other people.
I like it.
I like it.
Yeah. Yeah. I was confused by the original post, and because when you said like, "Hey, this person," I'm like, "What? I don't understand." But they're worried that it's triggering someone.
So, a woman posts a picture of herself holding a hypodermic.
Yeah,
she's a nurse. I have 8 months today. Look at me not using this needle on myself. And the admin took the post down, and she posted again, and she said, "Why did you take that down?" And everyone was like, "Well, you were triggering people with a picture of the needle." And
we should ask Jeff. He's the moderator in our group. Would he remove such a post? I wonder.
Because there's a lot of people that post non-alcoholic beers.
Yeah,
and I don't have an issue with that.
We're pretty loose with that stuff.
So we had a couple other comments. Corey says, people need to get a grip. If I was triggered by anything alcohol related, I would have to live on a desert island. True.
True. Yeah.
And then somebody said, I am triggered by people in situations. Something that might trigger me might not bother anyone else. I'm stronger by increments for not acting on every booze ad out there. We can't stay in the house and hide away from people, things that might set us off. So was the syringe appropriate? You'll find many opinions, indeed. And I didn't write down that person's name, unfortunately. But so, yeah. I don't know. What do you think?
I don't know. I think I understand why the wharf rats might be, because they may have, and we do this in AA groups. There's a group conscience. Some AA groups or 12-step groups don't want people talking about drugs. They're saying this is about alcohol. Our group conscience, it was agreed upon at the business meeting or whatever.
Right.
And so they really don't want people talking about drugs for whatever reason. So those members are uncomfortable with it. So it's possible, and I'm guessing that the wharf rats, maybe their group conscience is to be extremely sensitive to triggering people.
Yeah, maybe so.
So in that case, I get it. But who knows? Who knows?
Yeah, I just thought it was a little over the top to
It is. But
yell at the person who has 8 months sobriety.
Yeah.
I don't know.
More like congratulations, but hey, if
there was some of that.
If you want to post pictures of holding a syringe and celebrating your soberversary, do it on our group because Grant.
I was going to reach out to her and say, if you want some less judgmental people, you could come over and spend some time with us.
Our moderators, Aaron, Jeff, and Grant, will, I'm sure, make a decision.
So that was the Monksters speaking. There were a couple other comments, but we find ourselves pressed for time.
Jeff and Bianca are waiting for us. And so do you want to call them or do you want to use the bathroom or?
I don't have to use the bathroom, surprisingly. Do you?
Yeah, I'm going to use the bathroom real quick.
While you use the bathroom, should I talk a little bit about Kratom?
Yes.
Okay. Enjoy. Okay. Careful, you're tangled in the wire.
Anything I wouldn't say.
So we have, on this show, have talked about Kratom in the past, but, now the issue is sort of struck close to home in that our own Jeff, who has designed some of our T-shirts for us, had some struggles with Kratom that he's going to share with us. So I don't know if anybody knows what Kratom is, who's not really struggled with opiates. I mean, Kratom it's a tropical tree, which is native to Southeast Asia, and its leaves contain compounds that have psychotropic effects. It's not illegal. You can order it on the internet. You can go down to the gas station and buy it. It's a powder. Sometimes it's sold as a powder. Sometimes it's sold as an extract, labeled not for human consumption. So that should tell you something. Most people take it as a pill, a capsule, an extract. You can put it in your coffee. You can chew the leaves. And its effect is similar to both opioids and stimulants. In small doses, it's a stimulant. In larger doses, it mimics an opioid. There's two compounds in Kratom leaves, mitragynine and 7A hydroxymitragynine. They interact with opioid receptors in the brain. They produce sedation, pleasure, decreased pain, especially when you consume large amounts. A lot of people take it who have struggled with opioids, and they use it to get off opioids. I think that was part of your journey with Kratom?
Sort of.
Okay.
I sort of started supplementing with it when I began to come off of my psych meds.
Oh, interesting.
That's about when I started to try it, and it really closed the gap a little bit. I don't know how much you talked about while I was in the bathroom, but
I just went over what it is and what it does.
It's interesting. Kratom is a really unique compound. Actually, maybe it's not a compound. It's just a plant.
It's a plant.
Mashed up. You can, if you take a little bit, like what I do is less than a gram. It's a little extract, and it provides like a little awake feeling. It's like a 5-hour energy, except, I don't know, it seems better somehow. But if you take Kratom in the amounts of like 6 to 12 grams a day, which are the equivalent of like a tablespoon of the powder in like tea or something, would be like, I think 4 to 6 grams or something. So at those levels, it does do a completely different thing. Now, it makes you feel slightly sedated. I mean, as you probably read, it does. It's not an opiate, but it interacts with one of the receptors, so you can get like this mild opiate style relief out of it at really high doses. The problem starts to happen is when you're doing that much of it, you can have withdrawal symptoms that are a lot like opiate withdrawals. And so Bianca, Jeff's wife, is going to tell us a little bit about her experience. And she really wants to get the word out because when she was going through this withdrawal, which was very recently, she couldn't find any resources about kratom withdrawal, how to get through it, any of that stuff. And she thought she really wants to communicate to everybody what happened to her and hopefully have some good information.
Well, it's really interesting because when I was doing some research for today's show, I listened to a podcast by this guy named Ben Greenfield, who is really big in the fitness space. He's like the world's most popular personal trainer. He's got like Joe Rogan level downloads on his podcast and stuff. And he uses kratom. And there's this whole subset of high level athletes and bodybuilders that use it for everything from improving focus to apparently it is very good at resolving or treating chronic pain.
Yep.
So all these bodybuilders whose hips and shoulders and everything are all screwed up have been taking kratom. So it's and the podcast I listened to this morning really didn't talk much at all about the potential for addiction or the potential for any of the negative stuff on it.
Most people, the research I've done, people I've spoken to, it seems to me to be extremely rare for someone to be doing enough for long enough because it's very hard to do a lot of this stuff. The thing with kratom is there's a low ceiling as far as how high, quote unquote, you can get. What basically happens is you take too much kratom,
right?
You don't OD and you don't get too high. You just throw up. So once you get to the point of feeling like you're on like melatonin or something and you take too much, you throw up. So there's a low ceiling.
Here's the problem, though. I mean, these guys are taking this stuff like basically like they're supplements, and which is fine, except it's not regulated.
None of those supplements are regulated. Creatine and all of that shit.
True,
protein shakes.
But the kratom, which is basically a leaf that's shipped over from some shady places in Southeast Asia. It's not like made in a laboratory somewhere.
Yeah, quality control is tricky.
It's a big issue, and some of the shipments have been found to have been tainted with fentanyl. So
I've heard that. I'm like, how come I never got one with fentanyl? But we should actually give Jeff a call.
Let's give him a call.
He's expecting us.
Yes.
Here we go. All right, let's call Jeffy.
Are you hooked up to the board?
I am.
Oh, yes, you are.
All right. Imagine he doesn't pick up.
Hello?
It's Jeff.
Hey, Jeff, what's going on?
How's it going?
Oh, great, man. Jeff is a moderator on our private discussion group on Facebook and is responsible for making and designing all RMA merch. Recently married Bianca, his partner of, I think, 8 years, they said. Recently reached out to us to share his wife and him had a...
Wait, what?
He and his wife just went through a really harrowing experience with kratom. And today we've got Jeff and Bianca on the show to talk about it. How's it going, Jeff?
Great.
So great to have you on the show. This is a little weird for us. We're doing it at night, but we really wanted
the
to
PM
get
edition.
Yeah. Sort of like
after hours,
like RMA nights, like when Baby did the nights thing. So this is RMA nights. Is Bianca there? Did you guys figure out the phone situation?
I'm going to try to connect her to. We're going to call each other from the same house.
Awesome.
Super.
All right, let's try this.
All right.
Okay, I've got Bianca here now.
Hello.
Hi.
Hey, so good to talk to you again, Bianca.
I know.
And Jeff, ladies and gentlemen. So it's good to talk to you. I got a chance to talk to these guys a little bit last week. And this is something that hits close to home for me because, as everybody knows, I take kratom in the morning as part of my routine. And I have heard these stories about people really getting into trouble with it. And Bianca, and I think Jeff said that he had tried it too, but didn't have the same withdrawal that you did.
Yeah, I did.
So tell us about how it all started with taking Kratom. Maybe we start there.
Okay. Well, I had gone into treatment back in 2011 in Wilmington, North Carolina, and when I got out of treatment, I entered a sober house, and because I was really scared about, going back to my home in Myrtle Beach and, my friends and all that stuff, and getting back into it again.
Right.
So, I was in a sober house for about a month, and one night we all decided, there was a group of us that, I went to treatment with, of guys and girls, and we were all like pretty close. We spent that whole entire month together in treatment, and we were living in the sober houses now. So we decided to go out one night in Wilmington and go to this Kava Kratom bar.
Oh, that's
and
so awesome.
I had no clue what it was, but I was excited to go out, to get dressed up and, feel like I was actually doing something and having fun for once.
It's like a sober bar.
We don't have Kava bars up here, do we?
I think in like Brooklyn they have. It's very hip.
Yeah.
Very hip.
I hear it's big down south though, I heard.
So we went out that night, and we got there, and it was like really cool inside, and it was like really chill, and they had like my kind of music, going, and there was palm trees inside, and it was just really awesome. And I sat up at the bar, and like there was like actually like bartenders in there, but they were serving kava, like hot kava, you could drink at the bar.
Does that
I
give
had
you a
some
high?
kava.
I'm sorry. Does kava,
no.
like, what does that do? I've never tried that.
The kava was just a tea, and like, I never got a high from the kava. But it was just a tea that kind of relaxes you, and it's just supposed to relax you. And
I think you can buy kava. Like, I think you can even get it like CVS, little places like in the the natural supplement section.
That's interesting.
But
just to help relax you a little bit.
I've heard these kava bars are they try and create like an atmosphere, like they serve the stuff to you like a coconut shell or something, and it's like this whole
exactly
very cool.
It was in a coconut shell, and some of the guys that were in the guys' sober house, they were there, and they obviously knew what Kratom was, and they started buying it behind, it was behind the bar, and they were buying it by the grams, and I'm like, what is this stuff, and it was just this powder, and they were pouring it into the kava and, stirring it in and mixing it in. So I wanted to try some. So one of my guy friends, let me try some, and I drank it, and I was like, man, this tastes like crap.
Yeah, it's pretty gross.
It was like mud. It was like dirt. It tasted like dirt. Like I had it in my teeth, but I was sitting there, and, I don't know, 30, 45 minutes later, we're just, chatting away and having a good time. And I'm like, man, I really feel this. Like, this is like I feel, and I don't know if I felt really high, but I felt different. And I don't even know how to explain it.
People report a sense of well-being. I've heard people say that.
Yes,
just kind of like things feel okay when maybe they didn't a moment ago.
So how much did you take on that first occasion?
It was probably, it wasn't that much. it really wasn't that much. I'm not even sure how much it was, but it really wasn't that much. I don't know. I would say like, I don't know, a couple, they had these little teaspoons.
It was probably a couple of grams.
Yeah, a couple grams probably. And I felt really good. And like after that night, like we left and, you know, the guys, some of the guys had bought some to take like for the road, you know, to take with them.
They did.
And I was kind of jealous because I was like, you know, I just got out of treatment. I was so broke and like, I couldn't afford that stuff. So, but I really liked the way that it made me feel. And, I never went back to the bar. But I also did get kicked out of my sober house because one night I went out and did coke and
You did coke loaded. While you were at a sober house? My goodness.
Yes.
Horror.
Yeah.
It's probably the Kratom's fault, though, right? I mean, it was because you did the Kratom. Then, you know. But, all right. So you got kicked out, and then where did you go?
I got kicked out, and I had to spend one night in a hotel until, you know, my family flew me back to Ohio to, you know, my whole family's here in Ohio. So, they flew me back here to, you know, get into more treatment. And, I mean, I was a mess, but, you know, I totally forgotten about Kratom and stuff, until a few years later, Jeff and I, you know, had met and we were both in recovery and we had, you know, a good amount of time behind us, clean time. We're going to meetings and.
Oh, so you're a recovery couple. You're like literally a rehab romance.
We are
that
definitely a recovery couple. Yeah.
Wow.
We are.
I didn't realize
we met in the meeting.
we met in a meeting.
That's crazy. Actually. That's so interesting. Huh. And here you are, married. It's amazing. So,
I know. Yeah. I know.
Look at that.
I
dreams
love
come true.
It can happen, guys.
Yeah.
It shouldn't, but it
Just
can.
be careful out there, but it can happen.
But we had, at one point, we decided to start up this vape business. You know, we decided to get in the vape industry, and decided to start making like the juice for the vape, you know, the flavors. And we had a lot of fun with it. And we sold a lot around Columbus and we were, you know, in some businesses and stuff. And, we would have like vendors and stuff call us all the time.
That's so
you know,
cool. You did a vape when Jeff told me that, he's like, oh yeah, I had my own like vape juice company. Like, I thought that was the coolest thing. I'm like, oh man, what doesn't this guy do?
I know, exactly. He's constantly doing something.
I've tried a lot of things. It's a lot of business ideas.
It's amazing. It's amazing. So you've got a vape empire going, and then what?
Yes. So we were doing well, and we had a vendor call us one day called Jeff, and I just happened to overhear. It was a Kratom vendor, and you know they wanted to get on our website to sell their Kratom, and like I had this like moment where it was like a light bulb flash, like, oh my gosh, Kratom! My God, I'd totally forgotten about this stuff. And, I told Jeff, I'm like, I know what that is. Like, yes, like, let's get the samples. Let them send us the samples and, you know, we'll check it out. So they sent us the samples and for some reason ended up just throwing the samples. There was a lot of capsules, that they sent us. And we put it in a box and we just kind of forgot about it. And, one day I was cleaning the house and I came across the box with the Kratom capsules. Yeah. And I was like, man, I want to try these, you know, and So I put a few in my mouth and, cleaning the house. And like, I started feeling real good. And I was like, man, I totally forgot about this feeling. Like, I really like the way this makes me feel. And, so I ended up taking everything, all the samples that we got. I never told Jeff because I was kind of embarrassed. Mm-hmm. And, once those were gone, I started searching out shops in the Columbus area where I could actually find it.
Behind Jeff's back.
Yeah.
So that is
Meanwhile, I think that there's still samples sitting in a box. Yeah.
Yeah. That's an indicator.
I actually did come across those samples eventually. And, I was sitting there, I found them in the box. They were still in the box, the empty bottles. But, I remember grabbing them and going, wasn't there stuff in these? Where did it all go? And I'm asking her about it, and she's like giving me that look, like, well,
I don't know.
I sampled them. I'm like, oh, you sampled them, okay?
Yeah. So I ended up finding a shop that I started going to, and that's when it really started becoming a habit. And I started going to the shop regularly and buying the powder.
Right. And that's where it gets stronger because you can updose. But let me just ask you quickly. Now, both coming from a recovery background, you met in the rooms. And I wonder, like, Jeff, what were you thinking about this? Like, as you're starting to watch this happen, are you like a little nervous, or are you like, oh, it's fine?
Well, I did a little bit of research on Kratom when we first got the samples because I wasn't sure about even putting them up on our website at the time. So I was like, I want to research before I even want to, attempt to even, put something like this up without, knowing what it really is. I wanted to do some research. And I did plenty of research. But again, with my research, I didn't find anything real negative about it at all. Everything was all positive, and, I saw it as harmless. I really did. I saw it as, this is the same as taking an herbal tea of any kind. And okay, well, it lifts your mood and it gives you a little bit of an energy boost. And I was like, well, this is like an energy drink. Right. That's how I compared it. This is like an energy drink. It's perfect. And I don't drink coffee. So I thought, even for someone like me, this could be my coffee in the morning.
Right. It's like the anti-coffee coffee.
So yeah, I'm sitting there thinking like, this is harmless. It's legal. It's got to be okay. It's a tree leaf. It's not, and everyone talks about how it's related to the coffee plant.
Right.
So it's very similar to the coffee plant. So how can this be bad? So I never thought, it barely even crossed my mind at all that it would be addictive or anything that's harmful to your body at all.
Right. Yeah. And once you started with the powder, Bianca, did you start to, because just so those of you out there who haven't used Kratom, it comes in different forms like we discussed. You get those little gel caps that can be like a gram or something. But when you start getting the powder, you can dose yourself. So you can take a teaspoon and you can say, oh, let's do another teaspoon. And you can crank up the dose so easily. So like, did you start noticing right away that you needed to add more or that you wanted to add more?
Yes, definitely. I would notice, even when like my mood kind of drop off or the energy would kind of run out, I would be like, I need more. And so, I would add a little bit more, just swish it back and swallow it and, drink some more. And like, it wasn't like a huge problem in the beginning. It kind of was. I was kind of a little concerned, but it wasn't really until like years later that I knew that I was addicted to it. And, that I was having a problem with it because I was taking it way too much.
And it's expensive and gross.
It's so expensive.
See, at this point, I was even starting to kind of notice, like, she's taking it on a daily basis. Sometimes I would see her take it, twice a day. And of course, at this point, I'm still in the mind frame of this is harmless. And, Bianca's gone through, some medical things that, caused her to have low energy. So, I understood that she was, okay, she's taking this to kind of boost her energy levels up so she feels, back to normal. And I remember, at this same time period, I'm starting to kind of, it's got my mind spinning. Like, well, maybe I could take this in the morning on my way to work and I'd have a better day at work. Mm-hmm. And that's when I started taking it with her in the mornings, at least.
Well, that's two of you.
Yeah. So in the mornings I was taking it, but see, mine, I only took it for maybe a few months. And I remember at the tail end of it, I just started thinking, this isn't doing much for me. At least it's not enough for me to want to keep taking this. And plus the flavor was just so unbearable for me.
It's pretty awesome.
You tried mixing it with chocolate milk. I tried mixing it with orange juice and every which way. And then I started taking it in capsules. I even bought a little machine that, put it in the capsules for me, like a little machine that makes the capsules. I bought that. So I was like, okay, I'm going to start taking it as capsules. That way I don't have to taste it anymore.
You were very committed to that process.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was. I was like, hey, I don't have to buy energy drinks because I drink energy drinks. I don't drink coffee. So that's like my morning coffee. That's my morning routine is I have an energy drink in the morning. Worst guy in the world, but, I can admit that. But, I think for me, it was only a month's time, but I kind of tapered down on my own and didn't realize it. I kept taking fewer and fewer capsules because I just felt like it just wasn't doing enough for me to continue taking it. And so I just thought, you know what, I'm just done. I'm not going to take this anymore. Mm-hmm. And I remember the next couple days after that, I didn't feel a withdrawal, but I remember hearing from the Kratom shop, they would talk about, withdrawal. And I told them I had quit and they're like, oh, how do you feel? And I'm like, yeah, I'm a little groggy, a little tired, but that's it. And, their eyes would light up like, really? Like, is there something, is it supposed to be worse than this? I've gone through heroin withdrawal and everything. So I'm thinking, if these guys don't know what it's like, they're making this withdrawal to be so severe. I'm like, guys, come on, this is nothing.
Right. So you had no problem. But
I had no problem with it.
He had no problem.
But Bianca continued taking it.
And then Bianca continued, yeah.
Yeah, I continued to take it. And, every time I would, I get nervous when I run out, just like bugs, I'd have to have it. And, we moved away from Columbus, which is an hour away from where we are now at our new house. And so it's like we have to travel on the weekend, a little over an hour away to go to the Kratom shop in Columbus for me. Because I need to get half a kilo of Kratom.
How much were you spending on Kratom, a week?
Gosh, probably
a week. I would say she's
$40.
Yeah, $40 to $50 a week.
Yeah.
So it's not going to financially ruin you to have a bad Kratom habit. Health wise is a different story, right? But I guess it's relatively cheap.
Well, yeah, I guess she had a good source. It can get expensive depending on where you buy it, but you just continued, and I'm sure. You heard that Jeff knew pretty much exactly how much it was because he's watching the money. He's watching you go. But years and years go by, right? How long were you living the life where you're chasing
living the Kratom life?
Living the Kratom life.
Close to 8 years.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah, close to 8 years. And I will tell you, this past May, Jeff and I got married and we went on our honeymoon to the Dominican.
Right, we saw the picture.
Very nice.
And I really struggled with. I knew I had to take my Kratom with me. I had to have it, and I was scared. I wasn't sure whether the Dominican. It's banned.
Bringing
in a few states
bringing
and
large
countries.
blocks of powder through customs is never
exactly.
It's always a gut clenching moment,
Yeah. So So, I mean, I was researching this for a good couple months, and I wasn't getting I wasn't getting any answers, but I decided just to, cross my fingers, and I'm like, I'm just going to put these in brand new bags. I'm going to label them. I'm going to put them in my bags, like to where they can see them, to where they're not,
You're smuggling.
it doesn't look suspicious.
You're a Kratom smuggler.
Clearly labeling the bag.
Yeah.
It was hilarious watching her do it. She had the black Sharpie out. And she had it
I'm like,
in the original bag, but then she had like a piece of tape over top of the bag that actually, she would label it, I think it's,
micro.
Microgaia speciosa.
Yeah. It's term,
Just making sure that they haven't looked this up and researched it. They know exactly what this is.
Right. Oh,
so,
man.
I mean, I was prepared, but I was honestly like, it was a little risky for me, and I was nervous flying with that. I've flown with Kratom before to back and forth to different places, but I know it's legal in those states, and it's still nerve-wracking because you are carrying this powder substance. But going to another country, I was a nervous wreck, and once we got there and everything was okay, it was a huge relief to me. And I'm like, oh my God, like I didn't want to end up in like a third world prison,
Like a Turkish prison, like Midnight Express.
Oh my God. So, I mean, that was a little risky for me. And like, it was then that I knew that like I had a problem, and I was, risking this stuff, like taking this stuff with me. I was addicted to it. And, that was this past May. And,
she had even told me recently that back when we were planning our honeymoon, when it got closer to our date of the honeymoon, that she told me recently that she said that at that moment she was actually debating asking me to change where we were going.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it was because of Kratom. Like she was just so worried in her head that she said that she was actually thinking about debating with me, like, hey, maybe we shouldn't go out of the country.
Maybe we should go to New Jersey.
Maybe like I knew. Yeah. Maybe we should just go to Florida or something and just drive there,
So you were ready to quit. I mean, so you decide you've got a problem, and you've quit. You've gotten sober in the past. So I mean, like, how did you approach it? I mean, how did you say? You say to Jeff, "Listen, I've got a problem," and he's thinking, "Yeah, no shit,"
Well,
what did you do? How did you get into beginning to get off of it?
My perspective, I actually was able to see that the problem, getting worse, like when it actually started to become a problem. And I remember telling her, like, do you really feel like you need this much? Because she was, she's up to, taking a dose of this stuff, 4 or 5 times a day. Then sometimes, I would get on to her about it. Say, you don't need to take it this often. And she goes, all right. And then she'd get down to like 2 or 3 times a day. But I would, notice that everywhere we would go, she would bring this like black insulated, thermos thing full of hot water everywhere we would go. Like if, we were going to visit, the parents or whatever, and she always had this thing with her, and I knew what it was. It's like, man, why do you need Kratom this much?
Yeah.
And I remember even mentioning to her at this point, like, you sure this isn't becoming a problem? You're treating this almost like drugs. I remember telling her that, and she just blew me off like, oh, come on. It's a leaf. Come on, Jeff. It's not. You're acting like I'm taking heroin or something. I'm like, okay, well, just, telling you what I see, from the outside.
Cocaine's a leaf, isn't it?
Yeah.
And,
pot's a leaf.
And
everything's made out of leaves.
It's natural.
Exactly.
It's a legal leaf. It's totally legal. You can buy it, in the smoke shop.
It's legal in 22 states.
Yeah, and Jeff's right. I mean, we would ride to work together. We worked in the same place in the same building. We traveled to Columbus every morning and went to work and worked all day in Columbus. And I would take 2 thermoses with me. I would take one in the morning, and I would drink the Kratom on the way to work. I would drink one on my break, and I would drink one on the way home.
Wow, and that's dedication. I've drank it that way. I haven't recently, but early on I was taking it in that same way. I would do a scoop in my coffee And it was very hard to get down. Like, that's why I really stopped and went to the extract shots, because, man, so the dedication it takes to drink that much, kratom powder is
sounds
amazing.
Absolutely disgusting. Were you getting
when you mix it up,
high?
it literally is mud.
Yeah, do you get high?
Were you getting high off this stuff?
I wasn't getting high, but I mean, I kind of was. I don't even know how to explain the feeling. I just, like, right before I went into work, I was drinking the kratom on the way into work. Jeff would drive. I'd be in the passenger seat. So I would just be, drinking my kratom on the way to work. And I'd get out of my car and I'm like, I'm ready to go. I'm going to have a great day.
Like I said, drink.
I'm all talkative and, life feels good and, work doesn't suck so bad. I mean, it was crazy. And I did it, every day, and I was, drinking it on my breaks. I was drinking it on the way home from work.
Yeah. It sounds like it really took over, but
yeah,
how in the world, like, I know you guys were telling me when you started to deal with the with withdrawals and everything, you were looking like crazy for some kind of support. You're looking for like a YouTube video, an article, something to help you. And one of the reasons why you wanted to come on the show is because you were like, there's nothing out there. And and Bianca, for those of you who don't know, is like a really great writer. She loves writing. She's written down her experience, and we're going to publish it just as soon as she's happy with whatever she writes, and we're going to put it on our website so people can read it. But take us through like the process of coming off of it and what that was like for you, because I know that was traumatizing, not just for you, but for Jeff to kind of watch this happen as a recovered heroin addict.
Maybe start with those last couple days before you stop.
I had tried to stop about a month ago, and I had run out, and I thought, this is it. I'm done. And a few hours went by, and I started feeling withdrawal symptoms, and I was miserable. And I told Jeff, I'm like, just go to the smoke shop here in town, because they have, and it's not good kratom. I mean, it's not like it is in the Columbus shops, it's just shit. But it is kratom.
Gas station kratom. Yeah.
So, he got some for me, and he came back, and I looked at the price tag on the bag, and it was, 2 ounces for $30. And like, I wanted to throw up, because like, I felt so guilty, because I'm like, I can't believe you just spent $30 for me to feel normal.
Yeah.
You only get it for about half that.
That's expensive.
And good stuff too. And I took it, and 30 minutes later, I was fine. I was like 100% myself again. And I was like, man, life is good. And I'm like, how the hell am I going to get off this stuff? In the back of my head. So like the next week, I had ordered some more kratom online from a place that I like, and they were having a big blowout sale. So I ordered some, and I did that all up, over the next couple weeks. And then I started running out, and it was morning time, and I thought I had my last dose of that, and I thought, this is it, I'm done after this. Like, I can't do this anymore.
Wow. And you had the opiate style withdrawal symptoms. I mean,
yes.
Like, how big?
Yes.
Describe that to us. Like, what was it like?
Well, that night I was up, and I was on Facebook, and I was kind of joking around to some of my friends on Facebook. It was like 3:30 in the morning, and I'm like, I can't sleep. I had made a post on Facebook like, I can't sleep. I don't know what's wrong with me. I can't sleep. And then I set my phone down, and all of a sudden my legs started shaking and getting restless. And I thought, oh shit, like, oh my God, like I'm going through withdrawals, and it was about 4:30 in the morning, and I managed to fall asleep. But about 5:30 in the morning, I woke up, and I was in extreme pain and absolutely miserable. I mean, I was it was awful. And for the next 5 days, I didn't sleep for 5 days.
Wow.
Jeez.
I had major insomnia. I was pacing my house. I mean, I was a wreck. I mean, there were times that, I mean, mentally, I wanted to blow my brains out.
Yeah.
I would wake Jeff up at 3:00 in the morning and say, call 911. I can't do this anymore. My heart's beating out of my chest. Like, I was getting in the bathtub like every 30 minutes just to like calm myself down. I felt like so much anxiety, and I felt like my eyeballs were popping out of my head. There was a point that I was in my bedroom, and I couldn't lay down because my legs were so restless. My body was so restless. So I was standing with a blanket around me in my bedroom, and the dresser, I laid my head down on the dresser, and I thought in the back of my head, I just want to bang my head as hard as I can just to split my fucking head open.
Man.
I could not. I had suicidal tendencies for sure.
It sounds just like opiate withdrawal. I mean, I had everything you just described. It sounds extreme probably to a lot of people, but I can tell you, and probably Jeff can too, that is exactly, or even worse, but that reminds me of what I was feeling when I was coming off of Suboxone, let's say, or heroin. Exactly. You really just want to bang your head against the wall.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I saw from my perspective. Just
bizarre.
watching her go through this, and she'd wake me up in the middle of the night, and the way she was having those cold sweats, and she was talking about how much, her legs were cramping up. She was throwing up. She was having diarrhea at the same time.
I didn't eat for 4 days.
Yeah, couldn't eat or anything. And I'm sitting here watching it going, oh my God. Like, I'm literally watching myself. I'm watching what I went through with my withdrawals when I got clean. This is exactly, and I remember I kept lying to her because she was just freaking out, and I understood, but I didn't want to tell her, hey, this might be a 7-day process. So I kept telling her, like, it won't be more than 3 days.
Yeah. She kept saying one more day. One more day, and I'm like, I can't do it.
Just one more day, you'll be all right.
I couldn't. I was like, I can't do it. Like, you need to call 911.
Yeah, she was just freaking out the entire time. So it was like it took everything in me to like, and look, I have to lie to her about this, otherwise she's gonna like get really suicidal, or I know how I felt. I remember feeling that way, going through kicking heroin, like. I remember, saying to myself, it's a good thing there's not a gun in my house. I don't know I'll make it all the way through.
Definitely.
I remember thinking stuff like that, it's that painful.
Yeah. I was thinking all those things, and I was feeling so out of control in my own head. Like, I felt like I was going insane.
Wow.
And it was so scary. It was so scary. And I'm still really traumatized by what I went through even a couple weeks ago.
Wow.
I'm having a really hard time. I went to see my doctor yesterday, and they're watching me and doing my blood work and stuff and getting things back to normal again.
Wow.
With my medications and my antidepressants and all that stuff. But I'm struggling at night because I get nervous when it's nighttime.
It's almost like a PTSD type thing.
Wow.
Like she's about to go to sleep, she's scared that she won't be able to sleep.
Yeah, I'm scared I won't be able to sleep, and I have a hard time, and I'm tossing and turning, and I get really nervous and really anxious because of all this. And it's been really traumatic.
So is there any sort of a medical detox available for Kratom use? I mean, I would imagine it's probably similar to like an opiate medical detox, right? I mean, they give you any like...
They don't seem to know what they're doing with Kratom, right? That was one of the things you told me. They don't know what Kratom is or how to treat it.
Yeah.
If you Google Kratom withdrawal,
or go on YouTube,
the first things that come up, like the first 3 responses that you get when you Google it, are treatment centers.
Yeah.
You need help? Call us now.
Right.
Like, we can help you with your Kratom withdrawal. I'm like, oh, wow.
Do you have insurance?
Exactly. But the scary thing was, on day 5, I couldn't take it anymore. And we went to the emergency room. And no one knew what Kratom was. None of the doctors, none of the nurses. And I'm like, oh my God, for fuck's sake, like, how are they they're going to help me? Like, how do they not know what this is?
Yeah,
like,
considering
I wouldn't know it at all.
Considering you can buy it at almost every gas station, in a state where it's legal, it's surprising that there's not more knowledge out there by medical professionals.
Yeah, and
exactly.
I think part of it is that most people, I don't think, have this kind of experience. I think that's part of it, because this can happen, and I think that's part of what we're trying to do here is to get, because I feel like, this made me look back on the things I've said on this show, and I'm pretty flippant about the Kratom use just because it's something that I'm doing. But I thought, hey, look back on it and go, you know what, maybe I should, be a little more careful the way I speak about it, because this is possible. And yeah, like you were taking a lot, but it doesn't take much for somebody, especially in recovery, to kind of get into that. I've been careful to guard against it, but that doesn't mean I'm immune from it at all. And I think it's important, this is important that we talk about it. And I'm so glad that you're doing better. But are you feeling better? I mean, do you feel like you're in a positive trajectory, or like where are you at with the withdrawals?
Well, I'm still struggling mentally. I've really been in this. I'm getting out of it, but I've been struggling with some depression, and which is expected. But I've been really weak. My muscles are still really, really tired. I feel kind of exhausted.
Wow.
But I'm getting better day by day. I'm just taking it, one day at a time. And, I had to tell my family about this, and I was pretty embarrassed.
That must have been hard, like to explain to them. They're like, wait, I thought you were in recovery. And then you have to be like, well, yes, but it's a little more complicated. And then to try and explain this. Wow.
Exactly. And my mom is a huge advocate. I mean, she's gone to the White House, with my story. I've been on the local news. My story has been on the local news.
No kidding. We should have you on the show. Oh, wait. I didn't know.
You should do that sometime.
And, my mom's a huge advocate. She does a lot for drug addicts.
Oh,
and,
wow. So
my mom, I had to call my mom when I was in the ER on day 5, coming off this stuff. She thought that I was just sick with the flu, because that's what I had told her previously. And I told her I was going through withdrawals, and, she just felt, Jeff had to take the phone. She was
in tears,
bawling her eyes out, wondering what the hell was going on with her daughter.
Wow.
Don't worry, Mom. It's just Kratom.
It's just Kratom.
Yeah, I know. Exactly. So it was, I hated to disappoint her, and I know that I didn't really disappoint her, because
and that's not how she's thinking.
But,
moms are great at supporting and all of that. But I wanted to, before we said goodbye, I wanted to see if there was a final thing, because I know you wanted to maybe say something about, a conclusion, or say something to the Monksters out there about your experience. And, how about some final words on on your experience?
Well, I had written this big long thing that, I think Jeff's going to send you, but I really don't have, I don't want to be totally against Kratom. I know it's very controversial, and I know the FDA is kind of after Kratom, and it's getting banned certain places, and I know that it does have some benefits to it, but in my experience, it screwed me up. and I used to be an advocate for Kratom.
Right.
I used to sign, petitions for Kratom, and it makes me sick to my stomach anymore. And, I still get these emails coming through every day, from the American Kratom Association.
I get those.
And I'm like, oh my God, what the...
Yeah, they don't want you to write your experience.
I just live,
Very,
yeah.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
I mean, that's my story and my experience. And I know that from the research that I've done and the videos that I've seen on YouTube and stuff, like, I know that, I did quit cold turkey, and, people do say you need to kind of taper off of this stuff.
You need to have a plan.
Have a plan to get off of it. And in my mind, I'm thinking, if they're saying this is not addictive, then why do you have to taper off of this stuff?
Mm-hmm.
If this is something not, you don't need to worry about, like that kind of scares me. But I'm not saying that I'm totally against Kratom. I mean, it might work for people. I've been on it for so long, and it's been very hard for me to find information on people that have been on it as long as I have and have tried to get off.
Right, the long-term studies. Bianca is the long-term study, and it's not looking so good right now.
She's the guinea pig.
But
I am. Well, so I'm here speaking about it, but
well, thank you so much, guys, for coming on.
You're welcome.
We really appreciate it. It's great to sort of meet you on the show, and Jeff, great to hear from you.
Good to hear from you guys.
It's I'm so glad that we got to actually talk to you. We were just saying, like, where the hell is Jeff? And you actually made a post on the private group that you'll have to sign in there to see it.
So I hope you guys don't mind if we check in with you in another month or two and see how you're doing, Bianca. And
that's
sure
great.
Because I think this story is going to help a lot of people. Because I think
we really hope so.
I think people tend to approach this stuff with kind of a cavalier attitude. But for me, the takeaway is if you have had any issues with opiates or any kind of cross addiction, be careful.
Be careful with
respect.
Exactly. Maybe that's part of what we're trying to say here is just respect that it's a powerful drug, and it can really do a number on you. So just respect it and be careful. All right. Well, with that, we're going to do the rest of the show before it gets too late. And
okay,
because we're not used to doing this late. But yeah, definitely. And all the Monksters out there, go say hello to Jeff on the private group. Maybe Bianca will join too. And we will see you on the web, as they say. But thanks again.
Thanks, guys.
All right. Thank you.
So long.
Bye.
All right. Goodbye.
Bye. All right.
Wow, man, that's crazy.
Yeah. Oh, man.
8 years of shoving that powder in your face every day. I can't even imagine. And the thing is, like, it's like you get to the point where, like with any other drug, there's so much process involved, right? You're preparing your thermoses of hot water. You're bringing your stuff. It's like
it has all the hallmarks of.
Looks to me like a regular old addiction. You know.
So now I'm feeling like shit about me using it. And in fact, when I first spoke to both of them last week, I'm listening to her story, and I'm just feeling like an asshole because I've been like, Kratom's great.
You're sipping a tall glass of Kratom while you're talking to them.
So for all of you out there listening, yes, I am rethinking taking Kratom. Even though I'm not really even close to taking that much, I still worry because I'm also, I have the disease of addiction, I would say. And I need to be super careful with it. All you Monksters out there, definitely be careful with it if you're on it.
Do you ever take more than one spoonful? Like if your day is like, I really need extra power this morning, let me take 2 scoops of Kratom.
I don't do that, but
extracts.
What I do is sometimes when I get home, I'll take another one.
Little afternoon, evening scoop of Kratom.
Just to be like, because I want to, So I am using it in the same way I would use coffee. Like I'll have it. So, but there's a potential there
Sure.
of some bad shit, and I don't ever want to go through opiate withdrawal.
It sounds absolutely horrible.
And I totally, I've heard, like my friend Bill, who is also uses Kratom, he reported the same kinds of problems, and he was using it at that level.
Yeah.
But he was afraid to travel to different states because he couldn't bring his Kratom.
Man, when you get to that level, it's like...
Yeah, I mean, like I went to
gotta-
Mexico, and I had a couple of shots with me for the plane.
You didn't
and
bring
was
your
good.
Kratom in a bag and label it with its Latin name?
But like, still, I mean, I still thought about it. Do you know what I
Right.
mean? Like maybe, I don't know. I still brought a little bit. I don't know.
You did?
Yeah, I brought some shots with me because I packed it, but I wasn't. I don't know. So I'm like, I don't know. Maybe what we'll do on the show is I will stop taking Kratom completely, and then tell you if I get withdrawal symptoms. I'll torture myself for the content for the show.
See, I was thinking of taking Kratom for the show, but now I'm not so sure.
Well,
I was like, because everything hurts, and I hear it's good for that. But
well, that was really cool. I was really happy to have Jeff and Bianca. Hopefully, Bianca is going to start participating in the Monkster Playground. The
is that what we're calling it?
Yeah, I just came up with that.
Okay, well, we're getting a little long in the tooth, my friend.
Yes, well, one of us is.
Oh, So from weird proto-opioids that can be abused by drinking them, we shift quickly to the age-old poison that can be consumed by drinking it, alcohol. Good old alcohol. Someone sent me an article from the Wall Street Journal this week, which usually is not so much of a hotbed on addiction, the latest in addiction news and research. But in their health and wellness section, apparently they have one. Ann Turgeson wrote an article this week called "A Sober Curious Movement Builds Online Targeting Gray Area Drinking." This is a subject that's near and dear to my heart since, gray area drinking is an area in which I've excelled over the last few years.
Gray area
drinking. So not hiding the handle of scotch in the closet, but perhaps drinking every day and drinking on the weekends and drinking more than you want to drink and having it cause problems in your life, that sort of thing.
Yep.
So I guess during the lockdown, millions of Americans mark the end of the day with cocktails. Now, as daily routines resume, some are trying online alcohol recovery programs to curb drinking or quit entirely. So-called sober curious or gray area drinkers, I do not believe those two things are synonymous, frankly.
But they're not mutually exclusive either.
No, they're not. These are people, they suspect they drink too much, but say the term alcoholic does not accurately describe them. I would argue it does not accurately describe anyone, but that's neither here nor there. A host of for-profit programs, many founded by authors of popular books about sobriety and pitched to gray area drinkers, has sprung up to offer support and strategies for giving up alcohol, whether temporarily or for good. And some of our friends show up there. Annie Grace is the one that they take a look at in the article and highlight. They seem a little bit obsessed, I guess it's the Wall Street Journal, with the idea that people are charging for this help. Like Annie Grace, I mean, the alcohol experiment is free. The book is the cost of the book. But if you want to get into, more personal counseling, there's a charge for that. And I get this sense from this article that almost as though they feel as if everything should be free.
Well, that's, a misunderstanding that people in recovery have, because they're thinking in my AA group, my sponsor would never charge me. But when you're dealing with services and you can charge, like you go to a psychiatrist, it costs money. You see an actual therapist, it costs money. Because
how much did you spend on booze?
It's a capitalist society. This is how people pay their bills. Yeah. And, I don't begrudge anyone for making a living, especially if you can make a living and help people. Why the hell not? This isn't AA. This is life here, guys. Right.
And it's unfortunate they sort of characterize that. And then the other quote they had from Annie Grace is like something that, she says that they took completely out of context. She said something like, wait, let me find it. Some people can choose moderation, says Annie Grace, which have you ever gotten that vibe from Annie Grace? From
No,
I never have.
She doesn't say that.
Founder of This Naked Mind LLC, Ms. Grace cautions that the effort needed to regulate what, when, and where to drink can lead to mental fatigue that makes it hard to stick to limits. I think that's a bit of a mischaracterization of This Naked Mind, which...
She's all about how alcohol as a drug is an addictive substance.
Yes.
And any amount that you can drink may lead to addiction.
Yes.
I don't think she really talks about choosing anything, right?
I think what she does to be a little more palatable to people who are considering their drinking is that she kind of lures you in with the idea that, you can when you're done with This Naked Mind, you will drink as much as you want when you want. But of course, that amount is zero, and you won't want to drink anymore, right?
Which is the way it works. Yeah. And anyone who doesn't know This Naked Mind, that is what it did for me.
Yes, and me. So, good statistics. I mean, 280,000 people have completed the alcohol experiment, which is like her 30-day thing.
Mm-hmm. We should do that. But we don't drink, so we would do it no problem.
Right. Well, one would hope.
Maybe we can get Sergeant Slaughter to try it.
Yeah.
And follow. I've been trying to get him to do that for a while. And if you're listening to me, Sergeant Slaughter, I think it would be awesome. You try and stop drinking, do one of these experiments, and we'll check in with you every week. It'd be great.
See how that's going. Mm-hmm. See if we'll go for it. Anyway, it was a good article because, it highlighted the fact that, post-pandemic, there's a lot of people that kind of went sideways and now are starting to question their relationship with alcohol and whatever other substances they've been amusing themselves with over the last 2 years. So, and that is Recovery in the News this week. Okay.
I didn't say.
We're running out of time.
We are running out of time, but it is time for
long.
It's another spooky season edition of This Week in Weird.
Let me just say before you get started that
thank you. I can't find
we have gotten so many positive responses to the Week in Weird. Nobody wants the Week in Weird to go away.
No.
And I can tell that makes you very happy.
Do you know who really sealed the deal? The fact that Scott Wick,
yes,
or Scott
Dopey
W,
Nation,
that's actually still a nickname. It's not his actual last name. He was very specific and that we should keep This Week in Weird, and I said, when he says it, it's it. Week in Weird is weird forever. We're doing it.
Shout out to Scott for saving the Week in Weird.
Yes, and
I think he requested one.
Yeah, he did. He requested a shout. So there you go, Scott. And we're just going to make the show longer and longer and longer and longer. So there's nothing left. This Week in Weird, cold case team believes they have identified the infamous Zodiac killer. This is major news. This was even on MSNBC. It was on News 12.
Wow.
But also Tim Banal had to chime in. And so what does Tim Banal say? An independent group of investigators believes that they have determined the identity of the infamous Zodiac killer. One of the more iconic cases in true crime lore, the unnerving serial killer tormented the San Francisco area during the late 60s by way of a series of sinister slayings and cryptic letters sent to the media. The subject of numerous books, countless television programs, and even a Hollywood film, the Zodiac killer's identity has remained a mystery. There's a Jake Gyllenhaal movie about this that's really, really good.
I saw it. It's good. A couple of good podcasts, too.
But now, a team of former law enforcement investigators is confident that they have finally unmasked the madman. According to a press release, the organization known as the Case Breakers has, quote, recovered new physical and forensic evidence, which they say indicates that the Zodiac killer was a man by the name of, are you ready?
Yes.
Here he is, Gary Francis Post, who passed away in 2018, sadly, so we can't punish him. One particular clue, which one member of the team called irrefutable, is that their suspect sported a unique scar on his forehead that just so happens to match what 4 eyewitnesses reported in their observations of the killer. Additionally, the group has also secured decades of pictures from Post's former darkroom. For those of you who are not middle-aged, the darkroom is where we used to develop photographs that they believe strengthens their case, including an eerie 1980 selfie that appears to show the shadow of a person wearing the unsettling Zodiac hood that the killer donned during one of his murders. Beyond that evidence, the case breakers have connected with an individual described as an outlaw-turned Zodiac whistleblower who says that he personally witnessed Post burying the murder weapons used in the killings and has provided the group with the location of what could be blockbuster evidence.
That seems somewhat dispositive.
Well, I'm not going to read the whole thing. It's a big, long article, but this has been a part of like our collective consciousness, this Zodiac killings. It was a very traumatizing national, murder case. People were afraid of this. There's been a bazillion, or more technically, a Brazilian different books, movies, fictionalizations, documentaries. It's infinitely interesting, this, mystery. But, if this could crack the case, I think it's big news.
Yeah.
Weird news.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tim Banal.
Thanks, Tim. Tim Banal should get... we should send him a T-shirt.
Dude, I was listening to Coast AM last night, and on this episode, they brought in Tim Banal to comment on some of his articles.
Really?
And I was like, oh my God, it's Tim Banal. It was like hearing a celebrity,
Wow.
I bet you we could get him on the show. So something to think about.
We should get him to read A Week in Weird one week.
That would be amazing. Yes. Or to deliver it in person. Uh-huh. That about does it for today. I know I had a great time. Did you?
It was different.
I'll
tell you that.
Well, thanks much
to our guests.
Thanks for listening. Thank you to Jeff and Bianca. Visit us at middleagesrecovery.com, Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Facebook, Instagram, Spotify, YouTube, and Twitter. So tweet us at @twat_you_twit. Support your favorite show. Drop a 5-star review. Join our private Facebook group. Buy a T-shirt, please, or simply write and say, hello, we love meeting new Monksters and chopping it up on the Facebook group. And finally, the best way to help the show is to share it with a friend. If you get something out of our little show, please share the love and help grow the RMA movement. And as we say, non proficiat perfectum.
Progress, not perfection.
See you next time.
Be good, kids.